And now we have one more operation that we'll talk about sort of informally, and then I'll have you try out an example. And this is for the star operation. So if you think about it sort of intuitively, without all the formal details, CleeneStar is kind of like concatenation gone wild, right? It's not really, but that's sort of how it feels. Because we're letting ourselves concatenate together arbitrary but finitely many strings from our language, and then outputting all the results. So if you think about what concatenation looks like, if we just have one machine that's acting as both M1 and M2, what we want is, hey, if this is my start state of that machine, I want to act as though I'm processing the string along this machine. Then when I get to an accept state, I'm like, hey, cool. This is a place where I can cut up the string and say the part I just read was in the language of my machine. And now the next part, I can check if it's in the language of my machine as well. So I'll spontaneously move to the start state and then read the next part of my string and say, hey, can I get to be another string that would have been accepted by my original machine? And that way, as I'm processing the string, every time my machine hits an accept state, I'm like, oh, cool, this might be a way that I can divide up my string and to get another component that I'm going to concatenate together such that each of these components came from the original language. Now, there's also an interesting quirk with the CleeneStar, which is that if we look at A star, it's always going to include the empty string, right? So it's empty string, but also W1, also W1, W2, W1, W2, W3, where each WI is in A. And if we want to force our machine to accept the empty string, we should have our start state be an accept state. And we don't know if M1 from the get-go had the start state be an accept state or not. So let's just build a new start state that is an accept state, and then start the party with cutting up the string into various pieces with a spontaneous move.